Once you've broken your search up into concepts and then come up with alternative terms, another thing that may help you in order to have a really good search is to use controlled vocabulary when you can. Databases that have controlled vocabulary may call it different things. PubMed calls it mesh or medical subject headings. CINAHL calls them CINAHL headings. And in other databases, you'll see it called a thesaurus, subject or subjects, or you may even find it in PsycInfo called Term Finder. All of these, regardless of the terminology that's used, are what are called a controlled vocabulary, and it can be very useful for you in doing a good search. Controlled vocabulary or subject headings are just an established set of words or phrases that are used to describe or classify articles in a database. What they do is they make it easier to understand how articles are described or classified. Because when you're going to describe something, you may find there are 6 different ways to describe it. Say, for example, in this example for soda pop, where there are 6 different ways to describe it. Well, with subject headings, you don't have to know all 6 ways. All you need to know is what the subject heading is. In this case, the subject heading soda pop. And if any of these 6 words are used, they're all classified under soda pop. So you no longer have to play a guessing game as to how something is described. What makes controlled vocabulary so useful is it really helps you to make up for any vocabulary deficits you might have. As I've mentioned in previous videos, when you come up with the terms that you're using to describe something, many times it's based on your perspective and background. And if you're not familiar with a topic, you may find yourself struggling to come up with other terms. Well, if you're using a controlled vocabulary, you don't really have to worry about that. Because as you know, if any of these 6 terms are being used in an article, they all are going to be classified under a subject heading. In this example, you'll notice that soda pop is a subject heading. And so if any of these 6 words are appearing in any article, they're going to be classified under soda pop. And therefore, if you aren't familiar with pop as a descriptor for soda pop, it doesn't matter because it'll be covered by the subject heading. The other thing about controlled vocabulary that makes it so nice, it also ensures that the topic or concept is covered in the article. If the subject heading or controlled vocabulary is listed, you can be assured that that topic in some form or fashion is going to be described in that article no matter what the abstract may say or what the title may be. Another good thing about controlled vocabulary is that it allows you to focus your search and make it more specific. And what I mean by this is when it comes to controlled vocabulary, the way articles are organized helps with this process. Controlled vocabulary is in a hierarchical structure or a tree structure that goes from broad to specific. You can see examples of one from PubMed and one from CINAHL below. You'll notice that this is a hierarchical structure laying out nurses, whereas you can see listed here and then more specific types of nurses underneath it. Same thing in CINAHL. Nurses is listed and then more specific types of nurses beneath it. Just know that if you're at the top of the tree with nurses, you're going to get a lot more articles than you are from the more specific terms or as you're working down the tree. Also notice in this that when it comes to these databases, that each one of these databases is intended for a different audience. And so therefore, you'll notice that when it comes to PubMed, PubMed is a biomedical database, more focused on doctors than nurses. So when it comes to the tree structure, you'll notice that nurses, it's not nearly as specific as it would be in CINAHL, which is intended for nursing and allied health professionals, where you'll see it not only looks at nurses from a position or a role or specialty, but even from an educational level. All of these things are nice to keep in mind as you're looking at the hierarchical structure, which enables you to do a more specific search. Aside from the hierarchical structure of controlled vocabulary, another thing about using controlled vocabulary that allows you to more focus your search is the database searches for controlled vocabulary in a specific field of the citation. Normally, when you do a keyword search, it searches every field of the citation, such as all that you see highlighted in red. Whereas when you do a controlled vocabulary search, it only searches a specific field. And say the CINAHL heading or citation, you'll notice it searches right here. This is called the CINAHL heading field or the subject heading field. In PubMed, it searches the mesh term field of the citation. In each of these, the reason that you're able to more focus your search is that the database is not searching all over, it's only searching one field. And as a result, your search by result is going to be a more focused search, ensuring that you're going to get articles that speak to your topic. A last advantage of controlled vocabulary is it will also help to eliminate synonyms, such as with the word nurses. What you'll notice when it comes to using the word nurses, if you just put that in the database, you'll find that it not only searches for nurses as a profession, but also uses nurses for the feeding of a child. When it does that, what it's doing is broadening your search to give you lots of unrelated articles. By using subject headings, you can eliminate this issue where there is specific subject headings for not only nursing as a profession, but also a term for feeding of a child, which in this case would be breastfeeding. But the one big advantage of controlled vocabulary, aside from the other three listed, is you can also start to eliminate some of the synonyms or different ways a term can be used. In review, the reason using controlled vocabulary is a good rule to follow is because when you have issues coming up with alternative terms for a topic, especially when you're unfamiliar with the topic yourself, this will help to make up for any vocabulary deficits you have. Because what you'll find is that in the databases, a controlled vocabulary term can stand for 6 other ways of describing the same concept. Take, for example, the soda pop example I gave in the previous slides. Also, it'll allow you to focus your search by not only being able to use the hierarchical structure to go to more specific terms for on the concept or topic, but also because the database will only search the subject heading field of the citation and not every field of the citation. And lastly, the nice thing about controlled vocabulary is it will start to eliminate the issue of synonyms. When using a controlled vocabulary, the term that's used will have a definite definition, and that definition will let you know how that term is being used. So if you were using the controlled vocabulary term for nurses, you'll know that it's being used to describe the profession, and you will no longer have to worry about whether nurses, the term, is being used also to feed a baby. So that is why you need to use controlled vocabulary. It gives you a more focused search in which you can be guaranteed that the articles returned to you in your results are going to be ones that address your topic or your question.